Trade and Perform Coaching. I wanted to do a quick update on just how to integrate the waves with the stars, especially on trend day up. You know, trend day up is so dangerous when you're looking for a short. You know, the risk of getting run over on a day like today is significant, right? So before we do that, if you have any questions, you'd like a trial to the room, tradeandperform@gmail.com. That's my contact info. That's about as markety as I get. Okay, so we're looking for a wave to the high. We're on an 18 tick range bar here on NQ, and as you can see, just since the open, we've been driving higher, and everyone who's in the room, you can just see clearly we haven't been able to get underneath the wave to a high. But here comes your first wave to the high, and we finally get underneath it. This is really the first time where we get a 3-bar combo, meaning I don't want to use a 2-bar. I'd like to use a 3-bar combo. We get a 3-bar combo to the high. And you can see that started to become resistance, right? So now you're underneath the wave to the high. You could have even used this over here to the left, right? But so what are we looking for if we had used this? How do we figure out, like, how do we capture that move? So it was pretty easy. I already said this morning, hey, forget the shorts, right? They're just going to drive this thing over and over and over again, and it's going to be really difficult. But now the picture has changed, right? So the first thing you'll notice is that almost any setup you got to the short side got stuffed if you weren't just scaling very quickly. So for example, this is a proper setup. You have a star, and then you come back with another algo to the downside. And did it pay? Yeah, it paid, but you had to be so quick before it snapped back on you, and you couldn't really be patient with it to get the extension down, right? So as we're going through what we're looking for, again, here's another example. Star, I'll go to the downside, and it closed back in. So that's a B grade trade, right? The A grade trade is a star with a star. So the B grade trade is the star where the diamond algo is the B grade trade, right? So if you look, and let's say we're like, okay, well, I know I'm in an area of resistance. I'm looking for the trade, right? That trade works to the downside, but you still haven't gotten underneath the wave to a high. Here we clearly have this impulse move lower, right? So what we're looking for is one of two things. Either it comes back and touches a star. So you have a couple of candidates once that happens. So let me erase this again, right? At this point, we're quite confident that we've gotten underneath a wave. And I'm going to call this my wave to the high, this 3-bar combo right here. Okay, and right here I can go, oh, I'm clearly underneath. Now, earlier, Elias, you saw this setup work. We took the star, then you took the star for a continuation on ES. You got to make sure you're in a good location. You have targets above. We're already all the way extended up, right? So you really wouldn't be looking for a continuation up. At least I wouldn't, up 100 and some odd points on NQ, right? So now we have a couple of considerations. And so how do you narrow your choice decision? Because you have this, you have this, you have this, and you have this. So the first thing I'm going to say is there's a distinction you need to make on the bars with the stars. The ones that are the best, okay, so again, we're always trying to filter out what's the best. They're going to have the little triangles, not only the stars underneath, but they're also going to end up with a little triangle on top. So that eliminates this one. We're going to strike it out. This one. This one's valid, and it's the only one that's valid on top. And you'll notice it's the only one that actually worked for a really fat extension down too, right? Okay, so that's number one, is you want to start. And if you look to the left, I'm going to show you something. There were very few stars. Notice none of these bars with algos with stars to the downside triggered to the downside. See that? Not one of them triggered to the downside for the short. So there's two pieces of value in it. The first value is you didn't short anything there from 9:50 to 10 o'clock, right? Was almost 75 points of rotation if you were looking for the short side trade that you did not get set up for the short. That's a good thing, right? Like that's actually a big plus when you're going through the process, right? So next, what did the sequence look like here? So the first thing you have to decide is, are you going to just take the stars? You can take the stars when they have a power bar on it. So I can tell you, if you want the highest odds wins, you will make sure that a little blue cap, triangle, whatever you want to call it, ends up on top, right? So next, so let's erase all that. And now we know, hey, we've gotten underneath the wave to the high. That was a big deal, right? That occurred over here. Not only do we get underneath the wave to the high, but now we have two candidates, right, that have little caps on them. We have this one. I'll draw a white line on it. And I have this one. Now you'll notice that neither one got touched, right? But in the process of coming back, so we're going to spread this out, and look how the short developed, which is all I care about. So if I'm disciplined, I'm going, hey, I hope we tag into this, and I get a short. This was a valid short, by the way. The star with that had turned into a power bar when it came back above, that gave you the high, right? That's number one. But part number two, what if you didn't take that? You wanted to wait to get underneath the wave, so you were certain that you weren't in trend up contention. So here's your first candidate right here, right? So we came back up and we produced a star right here. So I would technically be short. So it is hypothetically possible if you didn't put enough of a stop on there that you got stopped out by a tick, and that happens. If you got stopped here, you took it again, it really didn't roll down for you at this point. It did if you look from the entry point, right? So how much, the first question I have is if that was a stop. If I had taken this entry, it was identical entry each time. It was 106, right? And it gave me a total of 13 points, 106, 12 and a half points of heat. So I usually say use a 12 to 15 point stop. You obviously needed a 15-point stop. And the maximum extension you would have gotten out of this, the best you could have done would have been 9 points. That's not usually what we see out of that trade, but that's the first trade we would have taken. And the reality is for me, because I would have tried to press that trade, I probably would have gotten stopped out. Now, there's a couple ways you could have done this. You would have never gotten a 1-to-1 RR, but you have a higher than 70% win rate. And remember, you're trading contra on a trend day up, right? So the trade should be harder anyway. So the first time this stops you out, right? So remember, you're taking what we're setting up is getting underneath the wave to the high, first push down, and then proper setup over here off on the right hand shoulder, right? First time it stops you. Now, psychologically, this is important. If you go, damn, I'm not taking any more shorts, right? If you had taken your high odds setups in sequence, right? The next thing you're looking for is after this star sets up, and you're looking for it from one of two ways. I'm going to draw it out, and then we're going to see. If this box represents my star, right, I want one of two things. I either want to push down away from that star, come back and wick in, and then push down. And I want that push down to be marked by a star. Or choice two is same box representing same star, right? Come down, push all the way through and back behind, and then close back in with either an algo, a diamond algo, that's a B grade, or I get another star. So if we look at this sequence, this first one, I'm going to count it as a stop out because I don't think I would have scaled. Realistically, I wouldn't have scaled for 9 points. I would have thought I got the roll off the right shoulder. I just know I would have, even though I didn't take this trade. Okay, so now we come all the way back up. You got stopped. It pushes all the way back up. Now hold on, you're going to go, but Simon, right? Simon, we have a star with upside star with the diamond, and now I'm getting an algo to the upside. Okay, if you took this trade, it's a 1-bar stop. If you took this long against this bar right here, you got paid, right? But what are you betting on? You're pushing up. Like, if you look at this chart, the best you're going to do, or the problem you have, is that this is resistance right over here, and it pushed right into the base of the wave to the high, which was this. What am I looking for in this situation, right? We're extended. So if I'm looking for a short out of this location, right? First of all, if I get this trade, knowing there's a star over here to the left, if I took this at 06, I am going to bag out at 18 there. That's 12 points. More than that, 12, 6, 15 points, $300 a contract, and I'm pushing back into the wave to the high, right? But Randy, what you see is that star come back, it stops out this star right here, and then it comes back with another star underneath. Then you get the triangle down. That's perfect. And then you get that. So if you're wondering what your P&L would have looked like, you would have lost, let's call it 15 points here just to make the math easy, $300 a contract. And here, right, star into star, the highest combo you can have, right, where you get the extension. So that's why I say I wouldn't have covered this one. I wouldn't have covered this one because this was a star that turned into a power bar that came off a star with a power bar, which is why I'm not going to cover it for 10 points because I'm looking for 20, 30 points on this. So what's my maximum favorable excursion? I would have shorted 1611, and that would have pushed me down to 16,039.75. That's 40, 60, 70 points or $1,400 a contract, right? Right there in a very tight, succinct way of putting all the pieces that we have in the room together to get a giant winning trade. So you would have lost $1,300 on your first trade and then made $1,300 a contract, hypothetically, right? And so the carry through to this is go look at ES, right? So here's the ES trade, right? Here's my wave to the high on ES. Notice we have not broken the wave since 8:30 in the morning. This star, I want to show you where Elias's long was this morning. Elias took the long right here. Elias, correct me if I'm wrong. No problem. So when you come back over here, and this was Elias's long. So see the star printed right here? And then Elias comes back and takes the algo for the long with a 1-bar stop. He bagged, Elias, what'd you get? 40 points? 20, oh, excuse me, it's ES, so 25 points out of that, 30 points on the extension, right? 43 and 28. One awesome trade, right? So that was his long. And notice, if you were looking for the short, let's say I'm Uber Bear, right? I'm Mr. Uber Bear. Okay. Well, I'm going to skip these stars if they don't form power bars to start with. I don't care if they work or not. So skip, skip. First candidate, potential short. Yeah, that didn't work. You're not below the wave to the low. So you had to scalp that really quick. Nothing, 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 nothing. Nothing else trades back in. I'm not going to take this bar. It's not off the apex, right? So I don't have a short there yet. See that? I don't have a short set up there. But now what I do have is I've broken underneath the wave to the high. This wave right here is my wave to the high. It's right there. I clearly have a close underneath. And what I do have all the way back over here, I only have one bar that's a potential candidate, right? Only have one bar that's a potential candidate. So guess what I'm looking for? I probably want to trade back into this and get a bar fire with a star to the downside to get a retrace in ES. This one right here, I don't have one later with the diamond algo to the downside. This right here, wait a minute. I wouldn't take it, Ben, because this bar didn't turn into a power bar. It has a lower odds of winning. That's exactly what I was trying to point out is I'd only want it if it formed a power bar. If you look at all our big trades, they all had power bars on top of them. So this is what I'd be focused on, is this bar right here. And I would want another star to, so I'm going to shoot this across. And I want this to shoot out to the downside. I want this to form a bar to the downside, right? And then really I want a triangle right after it. So at any rate, there's room to the downside, or, right, my alternative is, since ES still isn't rolling very much, right, like that's not much of a give back, right, and we're in holiday conditions, it's easier to go to the upside. What am I looking for? Okay, well, let's go look. I've got this star right here. I'll highlight it. I want it to come to the back side of that. I want it to physically touch. This is not touching. It's not physically touching. My highest odds trade is to have a star come off of this, right? Or I can use an algo, but I want physical contact with the bars, basically is what I'm telling you. Okay. So that's my 2 cents. That's how you use it. I wanted to make it a quick tutorial. Does anyone have any questions in the room? So once you get underneath the wave to the high, right, the stars tend to work by themselves anyway. So, but once you get one test into another, you tend to get a follow away. This move here would have usually come right over here, but we're in holiday trading. That's why it didn't work right right out of the gate. And then size it so you can take it what 2 times. That's a perfect merge of the process for a huge P&L. It ended up net 1K on the trade per contract, right? Even if you took the first loss. So you just had to be willing to come back. So I'm going to stop the recording there. Again, if anyone has any questions, you can email me here at Trade and Perform. Well, I had it, then I lost it. Let's see. Let's see if it'll pop up. There you go. You can email me at tradeandperform@gmail.com or hit me on Twitter. TRADE, the letter N, PERFORM. And that's about all I've got, guys. So I'm going to post it, and quiet afternoon, right? We'll see if anything sets up.